but it's mostly after the issuance that you will save money.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Value Tokenized with Masha and Zania. Today, we will be speaking to Luc Falempin, CEO of Tokeny, one of the few operating and already profitable platforms for security token issuance in Europe. He will tell us about how did they get there and what does the client process look like. So, hi, Luc. Thank you very much for joining us today at Value Tokenized with me and Masha. And our first question is, Tokeny is the leading tokenization platform right now in the European market. And it's already operating, it's profitable. And can you tell us how did you get there? Because that's a question a lot of people want to know right now.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. We work on this project for more than 2 years, so it didn't happen overnight. I think we started with the right vision 2 years ago to tokenize financial instruments, to represent them on the blockchain. And I think we got lucky that the ICO market boomed because for us it was a perfect MVP. Simple issuance of tokens, simple onboarding of investors. But of course, with the right vision, we started to work on security tokens very early, actually, more than a year ago. And yeah, the solution evolved for what it is today. And that's why we are one of the few live solutions, at least in Europe and even in the world. We don't have much competitors, let's say, even if no one is really competitor in this new ecosystem. But issuers of tokenized securities have no much choice, unfortunately, and they come to contact us to tokenize their asset.
And you're based in Luxembourg, and why did you choose this jurisdiction for Tokeny?
When we started, we hesitated between Luxembourg, Singapore, and other financial places. We wanted to tokenize financial assets, so we wanted to incorporate the company in a financial place. Luxembourg was super attractive. It's a financial center of Europe. It's not negatively impacted by the Brexit, and it's the second place in the world with money under management. You have more than 4,000 funds in a village. So everybody know each other in Luxembourg. Everybody talks finance. We have a real proximity with the government, the regulators, a lot of public-private initiatives. So it's really moving very fast. It's very impressive, And so we are really happy to be there now. And I guess for the team, it's good as well. We live in the middle of the forest, so it's it's a good place to live and work.
And how's the activity of issuance platforms, of security token issuance platforms, is regulated in European Union and particularly in Luxembourg?
A lot of things changed lately. For example, in France, the day before Christmas, a new regulation was voted, and it allows companies to use a blockchain as a primary registry for shareholders. So now you can use a blockchain directly. You don't need to do a mirror between your books and the blockchain. And the day of Valentine's Day, we also got a gift from the Luxembourgish government because a new regulation was voted saying that it's legal to transfer securities on the blockchain. So basically, everywhere in Europe, blockchain is becoming a legitimate infrastructure for securities. And it's exactly what we want. So before it was not illegal, but it was not clear. Now, step by step, it becomes clear in most countries in Europe. And France has big plans as well. Europe globally has big plans to benefit from blockchain technologies. So the market is quite different than in the US. In the US, you already have a lot of trading for private markets, like on ATS and so on. In Europe, you have public markets, and for private markets, you have almost no infrastructure at all. So no transferability of securities. The trust is by lawyers, notaries. It's very local. So we really think blockchain can help to bring the roller-up together as a single market for investment. So step by step, we're trying to help.
And can you tell us about the portrait of your typical client? So it's like both geography, what you just said, like company size, what sectors, because it would be very interesting.
Before it was mostly early adopters, so blockchain projects, and now it's more about asset managers, investment banks, and they want to propose new financial products to their clients. So they want to tokenize the assets they manage and propose that to their clients. So people contacting us now are more a financial profile. They come from the traditional finance industry and no more from the crypto space. And actually, more and more we do STOs without any crypto. We issue token at the end, but we don't accept crypto during the subscription. So we have everything. We have real estate, we have funds, we have private equity, we have debt to tokenize boats, forests, any kind of commodities. So it's very diverse, and we try to create successful use cases on each verticals to learn and then to propose the same solutions to others.
We recently talked with Richard from Lithian, and he told us about the case that you guys did with VR Bank that you're in the process of doing. And can you share some of your personal favorites cases, success cases of issuances?
It's always hard to talk about our customers because we are a tech provider and not a financial advisor or distributors. But I can talk, for example, about Blockport.io. So it's a sale. We just opened the whitelist a few days ago, and the STO will start as the 15th of April. And it's an interesting one because it's open to retail investors. So to anyone in Europe and in the US with a Reg D, so with accredited investors in the US.
How is it regulated in Europe? So what the regulations apply to make it available for retail investors?
Different regulations. The main one is the prospectus one. So you have to fill a big prospectus. It's the equivalent of a Reg A in the US, but it's complicated. It's costly. You have some crowdfunding rules, but it's limited in terms of amounts. It depends the countries in Europe, but it's between 1 and 8, the maximum, I think. And now, for a few months in Europe, every country, a member state can choose the amount, but companies can raise up to 8 million every 12 months with a light prospectus. So it's not a big formality. You have to have a serious project, but it's a light prospectus. Simplified document of information, and it's what did Blockport, for example. So they are based in Netherlands. In Netherlands, it's 5 million. So their sales cannot be more than 5 million for this first round. It's way enough for what they need for the moment, so it's perfect. But it's more open than in other countries. I mean, in Europe, you can raise money digitally to retail investors up to 8 million. Which is quite good. Actually, we launched a new initiative in France as well because France chose 8 million as a maximum. So with some partners, we are creating a bundle for STOs up to 8 million. So it will really open the market, we think, because we have the technology to onboard investors easily, to manage tokens for the issuers and so on. So now we need to evangelize the investors and explain how it works to manage a wallet, basically. And
speaking of investors, you recently launched a new investor ID for investors in tokenized securities. Can you tell it a bit more about that?
Investor ID is probably the main component of our blockchain system. For every issuance, we use the T-Rex standard for tokens, for security tokens. So it's a standard of tokens to enforce the compliance within each transfer. So when I want to transfer my token, this token will request an authorization from a validator service. And in this validator service, it will check the identities and it will check the investor IDs. So every time we onboard investors, after we provide an investor ID to these investors. So it's an identity on chain because we use this new infrastructure, the blockchain. Okay, but we need to identify people on this infrastructure. Every regulation talk about identities, not about wallets, unfortunately. So what we do is creating these identities. It's a smart contract. And in the smart contract, you have a proof of KYC and a wallet in the same entity. So we have a direct link to the between the KYC proof and the wallet. So everybody has his own identity, his investor ID, and then you can trade within member of the ecosystem if they are authorized. So investor ID is now a brand. It's not a Tokeny brand; it's an open solution. But it was important to have a brand, a name on it, so investors can recognize it. And now, when they arrive in a new offering, they know that they can connect with their investor ID. And if they connect their investor ID, they are already KYC check. There are many challenges that they don't need to pass anymore. They own their own identity, so they can grant accesses or revoke accesses to any issuers or any KYC provider or any exchanges. So it's super GDPR compliant, and it's really easy to use with any wallet. So and then next month when the new Samsung with a built-in blockchain wallet will be released, anyone can handle security tokens. I can get directly security token in his wallet in full compliance.
And Luxembourg finance minister also created one for himself, right?
Yes, we launched Investor ID the 15th of March in Luxembourg, and we gave the first blockchain ID to the Minister of Finance, Pierre Gramegna. He's really supporting the blockchain industry, the digitalization of finance in Luxembourg and in Europe. So yes, it was an interesting exercise.
And back from investor side to the customer side, we've been also stalking you on Tokeny Telegram. There was a question: does it make sense financially to do tokenization because it's cheaper to fundraise when you tokenize your securities? And I think your answer was that the main cost reduction comes when you already have your tokens issued, and it comes between transactions between among investors and companies. Can you tell more about that, please?
Yes, it's interesting because for the moment, tokenization is not a commodity yet. So it's expensive to tokenize your assets. It's expensive because you need lawyers. It's a complicated topic. You need a solution like Tokeny. You need to market your sales. So for a small fundraising, it doesn't make sense for the moment. If you want to tokenize a big company because you prefer to tokenize and not do an IPO, yes, it makes sense. But for most projects, it will not be cheaper during the issuance. But you will have more investors, maybe smaller than if you do a standard fundraising. So it depends what are your objectives. But it's mostly after the issuance that you will save money. Because you will be in control of everything, and especially your shareholders, they will have this transferability with almost no cost. Cost of transaction with our system is around 15 cents. If you want to sell a share in your company today, you need a lawyer. Yeah, the counterparty needs a lawyer. You need to meet him. It's super complicated. Last time I sold shares in my company, we were more than 20 people in the room. And the company was not that big. So the idea is really to bring more efficiency, operational efficiency, and to reduce cost when you have this digital asset. Because it's digital, you can automate and people can meet easily online and trade online and so on. But the issuance, you still need to do the paperwork. because you have to respect the rules and you need to do the tokenization. So it's complicated to make it cheaper. But when you do an IPO, you have to pay the stock exchange, and it's kind of expensive, and the market makers and so on. So yes, if you can remove that and do an STO, maybe you can save cost. But for small companies, it will not be cheap.
Yeah, and do you think it's easy to explain this to issuers? Because
traditional
businesses, yeah, because most traditional businesses still reluctant to look into such opportunities, mainly because these benefits are not like transparent. They don't understand them. So what is needed, you think, to get it out there and explain these benefits better?
Think missing about Blockport. So Blockport, it's a small fundraising, let's say 5 million. It's not small, but for in comparison to what we saw last year for ICOs, it looks small. But why did they do an STO? Because they have a community and they want to build a stronger community. So for them, it makes sense to sell some shares to their community, to their customers. Blockport is a crypto exchange, the European Coinbase, basically. A bit better, but that's my personal opinion. So they have customers, and I think it makes sense to sell some shares to these customers, to involve them. So it's to bring more loyalty and to bring them into their journey. So it makes sense. Why not? It's the same principle for crowdfunding, basically. But for Tokeny, for example, why Tokeny is not doing an STO? Because we don't need 100 investors in our capital. We prefer to have a few strategic ones.
So a client comes to you. Can you describe what the process look like, maybe the first steps, and also how long does the whole process take until the token is fully compliant and issued?
So on our side, we can be ready in a few weeks. It's pretty straightforward. We already worked with around 20 clients, so we know the process. But for clients, it's between 2 or 3 months and 6 months. It really depends if they are ready, if their financial instrument is already structured or not, if they got the right legal advice or not. So the main question is, where do you want to distribute your securities? If you know to answer this question, after it's pretty straightforward. If you have no idea, it will be a bit longer because you cannot distribute your securities anywhere to anyone you want. You have to respect rules. When we know where they want to distribute, we can enforce the rules, code these rules in our system, and launch the sale in a few weeks.
So a client needs to have all full understanding of what the financial instrument will look like, all the legal documents, and then they go to you.
Yes. So of course we give some advice, but our role is not. We are a tech provider. We did some sales, so we know the rules for most countries and the main exemptions and so on. But every project is different, and that's why also we want to work more and more with what we call multi-issuers, investment banks, for example, or asset managers, because they are already in contact with issuers and investors, and they know what they want. They know how to. For finance is a real job. So our role is to make the bridge between the finance, traditional finance, and the blockchain world. But we are a tech company mostly and only.
Okay, Luc, thank you very much for being with us. It was our pleasure.
Thank you very much.